Hi, this is David with EV World News. We talk about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. And I'm joined today by engineer Mike Herzog, also living here in Omaha. How's it going, Mike? Can you hear me okay, Mike?
Who?
Mike, do I hear you okay? You muted yourself. You're muted.
You,
There you are.
I
Now I
did.
hear you.
Hold
Okay.
on. Is it back?
Yeah, you're back. You're back. I hear you now.
Well, I apologize about that. That's not off to a great start of the new system for me, but
No,
I'm back.
that's okay. That's okay. We are on a new system and we're trying to get used to it. It has extra features, but sometimes extra features can make things challenging. So I got something kind of fun today. I saw this and I saw this people spreading this around on LinkedIn today. So I thought it was pretty fun. So we're going to do a bit of role playing. We're going to assume that for the last 100 years, because electric cars were created, what was it, like 1910, the first ones? I mean, they've been around a long time. So let's assume that electric cars have been the thing for the past 120 years, and people are now trying to bring gas cars to market as an alternative to electric vehicles. So I've got a question. So here we go. So I want to should I buy a gas car? And I've got some questions. So starters, I've heard that gas cars cannot be refueled at home while you sleep. So how often do you have to go refuel elsewhere? Would there be a solution for refueling at home? Now, this is, a common thing we hear because people are always talking about where am I going to charge it? It's like, well, you charge it at home, with an
Yep.
EV, and like the people that have EVs, how often do you have to go to a charging station? How often do you have to go fuel your EV somewhere else, Mike? It's
Yeah,
not
I
very
like it.
often.
I like it. And what's immediately coming to mind is I'm trying to think of market solutions. How would the market respond to that? And I think, well, maybe a truck drives around in the middle of the night and we'll fill up your car while you're sleeping and go through that. But you have to go into our
There,
garage and trust us. But
yeah,
that's
you
that's
have
funny because it's such an overlooked benefit. Like, well, yeah, you do it while you're sleeping, and you just plug it in like you would a lamp, and it'll
well,
be
you could
fine.
do that. You could have an electric truck that's driving around with a tank of fuel on the back of it and goes to everybody's house and refuels their car at night and then just dings their credit card. That'd
Yep,
be a simple solution.
I like it.
All right. All right. So, which parts will I need to service and how often? The salesman mentioned oil in the engine and timing belts need to be replaced and a box with gears in it. What is this? How much will this service cost and how often? And what happens to the old oil? So we,
It,
Bill and I had a session yesterday. Somebody at a Hyundai dealership out in California got a $1,500 bill on a Hyundai Ioniq 5 for something called an ion flush.
that's
And apparently, it's a real thing. There's uh, there's two different types of coolant that the Hyundais use, and this special coolant costs $60 a gallon. Retail.
mhm.
Takes 4 gallons, and it takes 2 hours for a guy to replace it. They charge somebody 1,500 bucks for it. Some dealers offer the service for 289, but this one
Wow,
charged 1,500. And it's supposed to be done every
an
30,000
ion flush,
miles.
huh?
Yeah, this is on the Ionic 5 only. It's the only car that has this service.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So it's something to kind of be wary of. So number three, apparently these gas car types stop on the brakes alone, so the brakes wear out much faster. How long will they last compared to my current car, which lasts over 300,000 miles? In a gas or diesel car, do I get fuel back when I slow down or drive downhill? So, yeah. So when you hit the brakes in the gas car, do does it put gas back in your tank like it does in an EV?
Yeah, yeah.
Number four, the car I test drove seemed to have a delay from the time I pressed the accelerator until it began to accelerate. Is this normal in gas cars? It's one thing, people don't really appreciate, until they try an EV and see it's like, oh, you touch it, it
I
goes.
I I will say that from experience too. Just the lack of transition between gears and what it is. You don't just that little bit of revving and a nice luxury car you don't notice as much, but with an EV it just kind of goes. There's no lurch at all. It's
Yep.
very funny to me to hear it said like that. That there's a delay. There's a chemical reaction that's happening in there.
Yes. All right. So number 5, is it true the gas is flammable? Um, if if gas and diesel so dangerous that you can only buy the fuel at a special filling station and not anywhere else, like a hotel or a parking garage or at home at work, why are people using it? Oh God.
That, that's
Um,
that's at the top of the list for me of really funny ones and to go through and I was hoping this list was going to go there because it is such a caustic and unstable element, or component or liquid or whatever you want to call it. That it's yeah, you can't smoke around it. Not that that's a big deal anymore. You can't light a match around it. You have to be careful. You have to store it in a special place. You have to have a special container, for your gas can or whatever that is. It's such a we've gotten used to it over the years, but yeah, taking a step back and looking at it of talking about unexplained fires or dangers or whatever that might be.
no, we're always talking
Reminds
about
me of the
people
whole
always want
whole
to talk about
genre of like
EV
80s
fires.
action movies. Somebody
Right.
blowing up the gas station and what that caused.
Yep. I understand number 6 is that I understand the main ingredient in gas is oil. Is it true that the extraction and refining of oil causes environmental problems as well as conflicts and major wars that over the last 100 years have cost millions of lives? I always hear this when people are saying,
Nah,
"Oh, they're
no, that
using
that
slave
hasn't
labor."
oil hasn't come up.
Yeah, people always want to talk about, oh, there's some slave labor of children being used in the Congo to extract cobalt. And it is true that 60% of the world's cobalt comes from Congo, and it's a very tiny percentage that there's a lot of people that mine cobalt in that country, and a very tiny percentage of it probably do use child slave labor. But what's funny about this is like, well, hasn't wars over oil cost millions of lives? It's really crazy to think about that argument. All right,
Oh,
I've been
100%.
told.
Don't want to diminish, the use of child labor and extraction and issues that those individual countries face. But yeah, when in the grand scheme of things, if you're going to balance out those scales, I think oil is going to fall pretty heavily on the
Don't own
negative
an
side of
iPhone
that.
and complain about child slave labor.
Uh, yeah. While we're looking at that, and I'm using my laptop here with all of that. Yep.
Probably. Um, Let me see. All right, I've been told that you have to transport oil all over the world to turn gas into gas or diesel, and these ships have in the past damaged the environment by leaking the oil. Is that true? Oh man. Um, Number 8. I've been told that these internal combustion engines make a noise when you start them. So early starts can wake people up and driving a lot of internal combustion engine cars in towns can make towns noisy. Is there some danger of noise pollution? All right, here it's time for the best one. Number 9. Is it true people can steal the fuel from your car? Can you imagine somebody trying to siphon electricity out of your EV? I mean, I know it's
That's
possible because I
funny.
watched something where somebody couldn't charge their Rivian and a Tesla Cybertruck was charging the Rivian truck. Um,
That is,
and
and I've been wondering about that too. I wish I followed it better, but vehicle to vehicle
mhm,
charging.
yeah,
Just
this was
just
a
that
thing.
idea, like, well, if I do get stuck or something happens, is there a connector? I guess they haven't even figured out iPhone to iPhone charging, so cars
Well,
are cars are probably a
I,
minute
s-
away, but still,
I
that's
suspect in
funny.
the particular case they were also at a Tesla supercharger, and maybe I'm pretty sure it was an R1T. I don't think it was one that was set up for NACS charging. It was probably set up for CCS charging. And so, but apparently the Tesla,
Mhm.
had, bidirectional, and it was able to pump electrons into the Rivian. But anyways, okay, this one's a good one. Okay, number 10. This is really applicable. Is it true that when it's really cold out, gas vehicles sometimes just don't start and that they get 15% less gas mileage in the cold? We always hear about EVs getting less range in the cold, but I saw somebody doing the math on this, and the reduction in gas mileage in a gas car is actually quite a bit more expensive than the loss of energy from heating your car in the EV because electricity is just so much cheaper. And now I'm used to my EV
Mhm.
having less range when it's cold, and maybe planning my winter road trips accordingly. If I sometimes just can't even get to work in a gas car, that's going to be a problem. Let's see. I've also heard that when you're refueling, you might be exposed to gas fumes, that you have to stand there breathing in those fumes while you fill the tank. Apparently, there's a risk of explosion at the fueling stations triggered by sparks. An explosion is an accident of truck tanks rupture and a spark lights them up. Oh man, some of these get really good. Okay, here's another one. My electric car converts 80% of the energy into I buy for it into motion to move me around. I hear gas cars only convert 20% of the energy that drivers pay for into motion to move them around. Can that be true? That's a terrible waste of money. You know, there there are some gas engines now that are like 31% efficient. And I've
Mhm.
seen some stuff being done where they're thinking they can get, I think it was Toyota was saying they may be able to get it up to 47% efficient and then in some prototypes. And I've seen some other stuff that with hybrid tech that was talking about getting above 50%. But it is kind of funny to see that. Now, if I can get all of the above questions answered, it turns out there to be no downsides to owning a gas car. I may have to consider buying one. Oh, anyways, I just thought that this was hysterical. When I saw it on LinkedIn, it had been shared almost 200 times. People are just passing that
Oh
around like
yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
So that'll probably be out quite a bit over the next day or two. Now, this next one, I've got an article. This is about cattle has or CATL has new rectangular LFP batteries. The LFP EV battery price will be less than $56 per kilowatt within 6 months. That's really coming down. It's a bigger
Mhm.
rectangular battery with each one being like six Tesla 4680 batteries. The LFP price currently in China is $70 per kilowatt hour. So we're going to go from 70 to 56, but this is a pretty big drop from where it had been. Um, and certainly a big drop from where these batteries were like 5 years ago. At the start of
Oh yeah, yeah.
2023,
I
they
think they're
were
doing.
110 to 124.
Wow.
Yeah. So if
See,
you
I,
look at
I think that's
124 versus
people are
56,
always looking for the home run. Like we're going to change technology, we're going to do something different, and that's what's going to turn the trigger. But just the natural process of people cutting costs and making improvements and tweaking things, and everything like that. That's amazing that they're dropping that cost down so quickly in what people would assume was a pretty mature technology there for a minute, to even
well, you
roll
think
these
about it.
cars out. That's great to see.
We're really, when we talk about EVs, we're really talking about change in power plant, right? It's like, look, it's still got the same chassis, still got four wheels. We're not changing any of that. Still got something for a steering wheel. It could be a yoke, it could be a wheel, but it all essentially
Mhm.
is the same. Although I do know that Sony introduced something that's run with a PlayStation controller. You know, at CES this year, they had a Sony card. You can drive it with the PlayStation controller instead of a steering wheel. So I mean, I guess you could have some changes there, but you look at the GigaPress, and so they with the EVs, they've got a way to cast very large parts of the car in one motion, saving on labor, saving on cost of parts, all this, and saving apparently thousands in the cost of actually manufacturing the car. Well, according to this, Tesla should be saving right now, compared to a year ago, $2,000 in battery cost average per car. They'll be saving another
Wow.
$800 within 6 months and another $800 within about 18 months. So you're looking at from a year ago them basically being able to save about $3,600 a car just from battery savings. And I know there was a lot of complaints about Tesla. This is from in the auto dealer. So I see a lot of stuff in the auto dealer world because of what we're doing here. A lot of them, I talk to folks in that industry,
Mhm.
And it's hurt them because if they have used Teslas or something like that, or you look at Hertz is getting rid of 20,000 Teslas, and a lot of it is because they bought when the prices were high, and Tesla has significantly dropped the prices of those cars. And so that a lot of where the car rental places make money is, they make money from all of the rentals, obviously, but a lot of it is they bank on getting buying cheap enough that when they sell them used, they make money off of that transaction,
Mhm.
or that's part of it is basically fighting the depreciation on the cars, making some savings there. And they really got hurt by that. But at the same time, Tesla's figuring out how to make cheaper cars, and what that's doing is it's putting pressure on the rest of the EV market to also sell their cars cheaper. Because if a Tesla Model 3 goes down in price, then all the used Hyundais have to go down in price, and the Chevy Bolts have to go down in
Mhm.
price, in the used. So it puts some pressure on that. But it's pretty crazy to think that we're going from 124. No, they're saying next year it could have gone from 120 all the way down to 36. So that's what
Whoa.
they're saying. Yeah. So in 25, sometime in 2025, they're thinking that the price of the batteries will be down to $36 per kilowatt hour. And that's a pretty big deal, because you think about when people talk about oh, your battery's going to be replaced in your car. Now think about this: 100 kilowatt hour battery is a big battery, right, for a car?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's what most of the Tesla long ranges are, around 100 kilowatts. That would mean that'd be Tesla's cost, maybe $3,600 to buy that battery. Well, when you hear about these people saying, "Hey, it's $20,000 for a battery swap or whatever," I think those days are going to be behind us pretty quick.
Yeah.
Um, I
Well,
had
I'm
one.
an EV owner, and it's still a new vehicle, but like in the back of my mind, it's a consideration. It's well,
Yeah.
what happens when I have to come to that decision point? It's at
Mhm.
some point. Hopefully it's not for a few years at least. More than that. But well,
Well,
what do you do?
the tendency is to look at the useful life of the battery pack as being about 200,000 miles, because you're going to have a certain amount of reduction in range and power output and things like that in that time frame. And but you look at it in gas cars, you don't normally have people keeping their gas cars 200,000 miles. I mean, it exists. You see it a lot in Toyotas, and like the Toyota
Mhm.
Corollas and the Celicas and some stuff like that. You see it in some pickup trucks. I mean, people who own pickup trucks, they'll keep dropping engines in them. Okay.
Yep.
It's worth spending a few $1,000s to drop an engine in a pickup truck, because a new pickup truck, you know, it's not uncommon to go look at them and just see crazy sticker shock. A stripped down model is still $60,000 right now.
Yep. Yep.
And so it makes sense to spend $10,000 dropping an engine into one that already has a couple 100,000 miles sometimes. So I know lots of people who do that. Anyways, the last thing to talk about was auto insurance a little bit. And this is gas versus electric car fires. Now, this is interesting because one of the things we always hear about, people always want to talk about the fires and EVs, they're bursting into flames. And I've
Mhm.
never seen it. I've seen lots of gas cars sitting on the side of the road on fire, okay, over the years, and I,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, mind you, there's not a lot of electric cars, but I'm just saying, I don't know how often people in California are sitting around looking at a EV on fire. I just don't think it's that common. So, anyways, I went
Mhm.
looking. Now, I don't know how much I quite understand some of these statistics. Okay, so I'll be honest here, and I sometimes wonder if there's a little bias in these statistics. Okay, but this is from an auto insurance news site. Okay, but it's saying this is fires by vehicle type. Okay, and this was fires per 100,000 sales, and this is,
Yep.
I don't know what to think about. So hybrid cars had 3,400 incidents per 100,000 sales. Now, that would represent 3.5% had some type of fire issue in hybrid cars. Gas cars,
That seems huge,
1,500,
right?
1.5. Yeah, and I'm trying to figure out what exactly this takes. And because I've looked and sometimes I think there's something wrong with this data, but comparatively for electric cars per 100,000, it was only 25. Okay, and this was the total number of
Hmm.
fires across all the cars sales they sampled. But in this particular case, that would only represent there having been 200,000 sales of electric cars. And in this case, I mean, what,
Hmm.
500,000 hybrids, and this would be like what, um, 10 million gas cars. It really, it's strange numbers because obviously those aren't representative of
Hmm.
the entire market. And so I kind of wonder, but this next chart is fire risk recalls for gas versus electric vehicles. Now, these are vehicles having recalls. There was 430,000 Hyundai Elantras for an electrical short, which is gas powered.
Hmm.
This doesn't really prove much. 250,000 for a Honda Odyssey, 300,000 for a Kia Cadenza, all gas cars. But then Hyundai Kona, 82,000 for a battery issue, 70,000 for a Chevy Bolt battery issue. Some Chrysler
Yeah, it's hard to get
hybrids.
something out of that because
Yeah,
that's
I
is
don't
that
know
just
that
reflective of
the
sales? I don't know.
yeah, so that's kind of the thing. It's like, well, how many were sold, I'm assuming though that if one Hyundai Elantra, say a 2021 base model, was the one that was recalled, that they would have recalled all of them, right? So that would be
All of
somewhat
them. Yeah.
representative, like you're saying, that would be sales, all the ones that are in the market. So some of that's a little, I don't know if you can really extrapolate too much this. How car
Mhm.
fires start, collisions, well, that makes sense. Electrical failures, oil or gas leaks, overheated engines, smoking materials like cigarettes. Man, you really have to go hard to light your car on fire with a cigarette. Um, Poor maintenance, vehicle battery damage, vehicle design flaws. I don't know. Some of that's a little rough. I Bill and I talked about what was it? One of the major causes of death in New York City was determined to be like e-bike batteries catching on fire and burning somebody's apartment down, and
What?
it had happened like 3 times or something like that. Okay, and just like the person probably has a lower, all the e-bike riders, because they're out on a bike instead of taking the subway, probably have a lower all-cause mortality rating from not getting murdered on the subway, and also because of the fact that they're exercising, because the e-bike
Mhm.
just supplements your bicycle riding. And I'm just like, you know, it's still a terrible thing. There was another one that was talking about all of the e-bike accidents going up from 2022 to 2023, e-bike deaths from 6 to 18, and showing it as a 200% increase.
I
It's like,
know. You see those
it's
things
like,
and it's just
and it's like, you do
says
realize how many people,
nothing.
was it 40,000 people a year in the United States die from tripping and falling? Okay.
Mhm.
It's 4 times the murder rate. Okay. And you don't see anybody talking about that. Okay. And I don't know. I feel bad for anybody that
I'm
dies,
sure
but
that's what that was, somebody looking at a list of cause, and as soon as you get more than one, it doesn't fall into other anymore, it gets its own category, and they "Ooh, that's a new category."
yeah, yeah. Um, e-bike. Yeah, I'm just like, really? It's like, yeah.
Skyrocketing percentage.
Yeah, I don't want to get into something like, let's not talk about how many people died from abortion last year, or something like that where we really get over the top. But it's really funny when you look at, something they'll pick. It's like, well, let's talk about medical malpractice. How many people died from that last year? And it's like it's not even
Mhm.
a drop in the bucket. At the end, I think of one of the articles that was talking about people dying from e-bike fires. It was statistically like 1/3 the chance that they would have died from being struck by lightning. It was just some crazy number that was infinitesimally small, but
Mm.
what is it? it seems improbable, but apparently it wasn't impossible. It actually happened, so anyways, you just never
and
know.
not impossible.
Oh, anyways, I loved our topic today. That's the questions about
That was good. That's a fun one.
should
I'm
you
gonna
buy a
share that
gas
one around
car or
too.
not? Yeah. So, anyways, all right, Mike. Well, I appreciate you coming on today. Everybody, thanks for listening in. Please give us a comment if you liked our content, what you like to hear about. And oh, hey, we got something interesting here. So, Captain Curious, EVs are Illuminati's took to take over the world. I cannot say more. They are watching everything. Well, that may be the case. I can't say that's not
Yeah.
true. The World Economic Forum's been going on, and um, I know people actually that speak there, and you know, I don't think that they're really part of some global conspiracy, and I don't want anybody to think that just because my eyebrows look the way they are that I'm, some otherworldly being. But
Mhm.
um, I see some of this, and I sometimes do wonder. I mean, that in the next year or so, all new cars are going to be sold. They're going to have a capability for law enforcement to remote turn your car off when you're
Wow.
driving. Yeah, that's not just EVs. That's all cars.
That's
All
all
cars are going
cars.
to
Yeah.
have that, and it's sold in the United States. And it's like, you don't really hear people talk about this much, but to me, that's kind of creepy.
Hmm.
Okay, I
Yeah.
mean, I really don't know. I really don't know that law enforcement really needs that kind of outreach. I just look at what kind of problems that's going to cause, but
Yeah.
um,
That's a big
you
step.
just, yeah, you just never know. Anyways, um, appreciate it. Please leave us comments. Like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't like it. You know, I really don't care. I love it when people leave comments. It gives me a chance to engage with my listeners. Anyways, going to go ahead and end the show for today.